Your children haven't won anything like the others. My MIO, Martha, cut through the elegant banquet hall, blocking our path to the family table. My kids, Sarah and Michael, ages 12 and 14, stood frozen beside me, their faces flushing with embarrassment. Look at Jessica's children, Martha continued, gesturing to my SIL's perfectly polished twins with their matching violin cases and academic medals. 3-time state champions, and Tommy's son just won the regional science fair. What have your kids done except played in the dirt all day? I felt Michael's hand tighten in mine. Sarah's shoulders slumped forward as if trying to make herself invisible. My name is Anna Williams, and at 35, I was watching my mother-in-law crush my children's spirits at what was supposed to be a family celebration. This is my achievement ceremony, Martha announced, straightening her designer jacket. I'm receiving the Citizen of the Year award. I can't have. She waved dismissively at my children. Underachievers at my table. What will my friends think? The banquet hall suddenly felt suffocating. Other guests were starting to stare, their whispered conversations barely masking their interest in our family drama. My husband David was stuck at work, probably for the best. He always froze when his mother showed her true colors. I looked at my children, really looked at them. Michael, in his carefully chosen button-down shirt, his collar slightly crooked. Sarah, in her favorite blue dress, the one she picked specially for her grandmother's big night. They had been so excited to attend, even helping me pick out Martha's gift. You're right, I said calmly, my voice steady despite the anger burning in my chest. We shouldn't be here. Martha's triumphant smile made my blood boil, but I wasn't finished. Come on, kids, I said, taking their hands. We have more important things to do. Anna, Martha hissed, her perfectly made-up face twisting in confusion. Don't you dare make a scene. I turned back to her, my voice just loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. No scenes, Martha. Just 3 people who know their worth isn't measured by trophies or medals. Enjoy your award. As we walked out, heads held high, I heard Sarah whisper, Mom, are we really underachievers? No, sweetie, I replied, squeezing her hand. Your grandmother just doesn't understand what real achievement looks like. What Martha didn't know, what she had never bothered to learn, was that my children had been working on something far more meaningful than any competition or award. For the past year, they had been turning our backyard into a sanctuary for local wildlife, particularly endangered butterflies. It started with Michael's science project on habitat loss. Instead of just writing a report, he had convinced Sarah to help him transform our garden. They researched native plants, built feeding stations, and created the perfect environment for butterflies to thrive. The local environmental society had noticed. They had been quietly documenting my children's work, amazed by their dedication and the results they had achieved. But we hadn't told anyone in the family. Martha would have just dismissed it as playing in the dirt. As we drove home, I made a decision. How about ice cream? I suggested, taking a different turn. But what about the garden? Michael asked. We were going to check on the chrysalises tonight. The butterflies can wait an hour, I smiled. Sometimes you need ice cream to wash away bad memories. At the parlor, Sarah stirred her sundae thoughtfully. Mom, why doesn't Grandma like what we do? I considered my words carefully. Some people only value things they can show off. They don't understand that real achievement isn't always about winning competitions or getting medals. Like our butterflies? Michael perked up. Exactly like your butterflies, I agreed. You two have created something amazing, something that's making a real difference. That's worth more than any award. What we didn't know then was that our quiet exit from Martha's ceremony would set off a chain of events none of us could have predicted. The local news station had been covering the awards, and a young reporter had overheard our exchange. She had also heard whispers about 2 kids who had created a butterfly sanctuary in their backyard. As we finished our ice cream, my phone buzzed with a text from David. Mom's furious. Says you ruined her big night. What happened? I typed back, your mother decided the kids weren't achievement worthy enough to attend. We left before she could hurt them more. His response was immediate. Coming home now. We need to talk. I looked at my children, finishing their ice cream and already discussing their plans for expanding the butterfly garden. They had no idea that their quiet dedication was about to capture the attention of our entire community. Ready to check on those chrysalises? I asked, standing up. Their faces lit up with genuine excitement. the kind that no amount of forced competition could create. As we headed home, I realized that sometimes the greatest achievements aren't the ones that come with trophies and ceremonies. Sometimes they're found in the quiet dedication of two kids who decided to make their corner of the world a little bit better. Little did we know, tomorrow's headline would read, "Local children create haven for endangered butterflies while grandmother receives Citizen of the Year award." Martha's perfectly planned ceremony was about to be overshadowed by the very achievements she had dismissed. "Mom," Sarah said as we pulled into our driveway, "do you think the monarchs will emerge tonight?" I smiled, thinking of the symbolism. "Maybe, sweetie. Sometimes the most beautiful things happen when you least expect them." David's car was already in the driveway, and I could see him standing in the backyard, staring at our children's creation with new eyes. Maybe it was time for everyone to understand what real achievement looks like. The security lights illuminated the garden, where dozens of butterflies were settling in for the night, their wings catching the light like stained glass. In that moment, I knew we had made the right choice leaving Martha's ceremony. Some achievements don't need an audience to be meaningful. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now we had butterflies to watch and a garden to tend. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply staying true to what you believed in, even when others can't see its value. The morning after Martha's award ceremony, our quiet breakfast was interrupted by an insistent knocking at the door. I opened it to find Melissa Chen, a local news reporter, standing on our porch with a camera crew. "Mrs. Williams? I'm from Channel 5 News. We heard about your children's butterfly sanctuary and would love to do a story. The timing seems particularly relevant given last night's events." I glanced back at Michael and Sarah, who were peering curiously from the kitchen. "How did you hear about our garden?" Melissa smiled. "Word travels fast. Plus, we were covering the Citizen of the Year ceremony when you left. Several guests mentioned your children's environmental project. Is it true they've managed to attract 5 endangered species?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Martha's name flashed on the screen, accompanied by a link to the local paper's website. The headline made my heart skip a beat. "Young environmentalists create butterfly haven while grandmother receives controversial award." "Mom," Sarah called from the kitchen, "the chrysalises are starting to move." I turned back to Melissa. "Would you like to see something amazing?" The next hour was a blur of activity. The news crew followed my children through their garden as they expertly explained their project. Michael showed off the special nectar plants they'd researched and planted. Sarah demonstrated the water features they had designed to create the perfect microclimate. "And here," Michael said proudly, pointing to a cluster of chrysalises, "is where the magic happens." As if on cue, one of the chrysalises began to crack. The camera zoomed in as a monarch butterfly slowly emerged, its wings gradually unfurling in the morning sun. "This is incredible," Melissa breathed. "How long have you been working on this?" "Almost a year," Sarah replied. "We started after Michael learned about habitat loss at school." "Did you know monarch butterflies have declined by more than 80% in recent years?" My phone continued to buzz with messages. Jessica, whose violin-playing twins were Martha's pride and joy, wanted to know why her children were being overshadowed by butterflies. Martha had left several voicemails, each more agitated than the last. But I wasn't listening to any of them. I was watching my children shine, explaining complex environmental concepts with confidence and passion. This wasn't about competitions or medals. This was about making a real difference. "Mrs. Williams," Melissa pulled me aside. "Would you care to comment on why your family left the award ceremony last night?" I thought carefully before responding. Sometimes people have different definitions of achievement. My children may not have traditional accolades, but they've created something meaningful, something that's helping preserve endangered species. I couldn't be prouder. The story aired that evening. My kids sat transfixed, watching themselves on television. The piece was beautifully done, showcasing their garden in all its glory, butterflies dancing through the air as Michael and Sarah explained their project. Then came Martha's reaction. She had apparently stormed into the news station, demanding they take down the story. "Those children are embarrassing our family," she had declared. "Their little garden project is stealing attention from my achievement." The station, of course, included her outburst in the segment. The contrast between my children's genuine passion and their grandmother's petty jealousy couldn't have been clearer. "Mom?" Michael asked after the broadcast. "Did we do something wrong?" I pulled him close. "No, sweetheart. You did everything right. Some people just can't handle it when others shine." That evening, David finally found his voice. After watching the news story 3 times, he turned to our children. "I had no idea," he said softly. "All this time, I thought you were just playing in the garden. This is extraordinary." The next morning, our doorbell rang again. This time, it was Dr. Eleanor Martinez from the State University's Environmental Science Department. She had seen the news story and wanted to offer my children an opportunity to participate in a real research project. "What you've created here," she explained, gesturing to the garden, "is exactly what we've been trying to promote. Would your children be interested in helping us document butterfly migration patterns?" Sarah and Michael's eyes lit up. This wasn't about winning medals or beating others. This was about contributing to something larger than themselves. As they eagerly discussed the project with Dr. Martinez, my phone buzzed yet again. Martha had posted a long rant on social media about attention-seeking grandchildren and real achievements versus hobbies. I silenced my phone without reading further. Outside, my children were helping Dr. Martinez set up monitoring equipment, their faces glowing with purpose. Sometimes the best response to criticism is simply to keep doing what you know is right. The butterflies danced through the garden, oblivious to the family drama they had sparked. One landed on Sarah's shoulder as she worked, its wings catching the sunlight like a living medal, more beautiful and meaningful than any award Martha could ever receive. The aftermath of the news story spread like wildfire through our community. Within days, schools started calling, asking if my children would give presentations on butterfly conservation. Environmental groups reached out about partnerships. Even the mayor's office contacted us about implementing similar gardens in public spaces. But the most unexpected development came from Jessica, my sister-in-law. Her twins, the violin prodigies, had watched the news story and become fascinated by the butterflies. They begged to visit our garden. "I don't know what to do," Jessica confessed when she called. "Mother's forbidden us from contacting you, but the girls won't stop talking about the butterflies." I thought about my nieces, so often paraded around with their violins like show ponies. "Bring them over," I said. "Some things are more important than family politics." The next day, Jessica's twins stood in our garden, their usual perfect posture relaxed for once, eyes wide with wonder as Michael and Sarah showed them how to identify different species. "Can we help?" Amy, the older twin by 2 minutes, asked shyly. "Maybe we could play music out here?" I read that butterflies respond to vibrations. It was the first time I ever heard either twin suggest playing music for joy rather than competition. Martha's reaction was nuclear. When she discovered Jessica had betrayed her by visiting us, she threatened to cut off the twins' violin lessons. But something had shifted. Jessica, for the first time, stood up to her mother. "Enough," she said during a family dinner we weren't invited to. "Your grandchildren have created something beautiful and important. Why can't you see that?" The environmental project expanded beyond our backyard. Dr. Martinez helped the kids establish a network of butterfly gardens throughout the community. Other children joined in, inspired by what they'd seen on the news. Martha made one last attempt to reassert control. She showed up at our house unannounced, clutching her Citizen of the Year award. "This," she said, thrusting the trophy forward, "is what real achievement looks like. Not playing with bugs in the dirt." But her words had lost their power. At that moment, a group of elementary school students was in our garden, learning about ecosystem conservation from Michael and Sarah. Their eager faces and thoughtful questions spoke volumes about what real achievement looked like. "You know, Martha," I said quietly, "those bugs in the dirt have taught my children more about leadership, dedication, and making a real difference than any competition ever could. But you're too busy counting medals to see it." She left in a huff, but I noticed her pause at the garden gate, watching as a monarch butterfly landed on Sarah's outstretched hand. For just a moment, her expression softened, showing a glimpse of the wonder she had lost in her endless pursuit of prestige. 3 months after Martha's award ceremony, Michael and Sarah received their own recognition, the State Environmental Conservation Award for Youth Leadership. They were honored not for competing against others, but for inspiring an entire community to protect endangered species. During their acceptance speech, Sarah said something that brought tears to my eyes. "Sometimes, the smallest creatures can teach us the biggest lessons about what really matters." Martha wasn't there to hear it. She declined the invitation, claiming she had a more important engagement. But Jessica came with her twins, who had started their own butterfly garden. Even David's father, long silenced by Martha's dominant personality, attended and beamed with pride. You know what's funny, Mom? Michael said that evening as we watched butterflies flit through our garden. Grandma's award is sitting on her shelf, but ours is out here, flying around everywhere we look. I hugged him close, understanding exactly what he meant. Real achievements don't always come with trophies. Sometimes they flutter by on delicate wings, leaving the world a little better than they found it. 6 months later, the local news did a follow-up story. By then, our butterfly sanctuary project had spread to 20 other locations. Martha's Citizen of the Year award had gathered dust on her mantle. But my children's legacy was alive and growing, touching lives and making a real difference. Looking back, I realized that Martha's rejection at her awards ceremony hadn't been an ending. It had been a beginning. She had tried to shame my children for not fitting her definition of achievement, but in doing so, she had only highlighted the true meaning of success. As I watched my children lead another group of students through their garden, I smiled, thinking how sometimes the greatest achievements come not from competing with others, but from following your heart and doing what you know is right. The butterflies continued their dance through our garden, living proof that sometimes the most meaningful victories don't come with trophies at all.